And we're live!
Hello and welcome.
Go on, stall.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the F1 podcast. I think there's already 5 people here because you scheduled it again.
I know, how amazing.
Efficient, 2 weeks in a row. No one could have predicted this. 2 weeks in a row, efficient at scheduling. Hope everyone is doing well. Is the chat working? I can't see anything on the chat. If you type in anything, apologies. Oh, there we go.
Hello, Infinite. Hello, Gianni. Hello, David. Hello, Peter and Paul. Hello, guys. Good to see you all there.
Hello. Oh, yeah. Supermax. Oh, I was going to say, what a double header in Austria. Not really, but we're here to review the Austrian Grand Prix and revel in all of Max's greatness as
I'm now with you.
Max, clearly the best driver on the grid. Lewis Hamilton, clearly 20th driver on the grid.
Oh dear. Right. I guess general thoughts.
Opening thoughts. Can I please have your opening arguments for the Austrian Grand Prix?
Hello, Caroline.
Hello.
It was a better race than last week, I thought. There was, although we didn't have a fight for the lead, there was more intriguing things. Unfortunately, there was far too much discussion about things not on the, well, I guess it was on the track, but penalising stuff on the track. Suffering there. I don't know. I kind of feel like the tenseness of this race was stuffed by the penalties.
Probably, yeah. Would I say?
Hello, Dane.
I guess it was a better race than last week, mainly because of Lando Norris challenging both the Mercedes. I really thought he was going to be a minute down the road in P5, but obviously Checo made sure he was going to be P4 at least, and then he got in and amongst it and got his 4th podium. But we had no fight for the lead. The midfield was again a bit,
Hi, Christopher. Our F1 fancy player as well. Good to see you
hello.
live in chat. Always seen you in the fancy comments, so good to see you here in chat. And Peter and Paul, it's going to be the mantra for this video. Let racers race!
Yeah, so there we go. I think Norris made the race.
Absolutely. And, I'd agree with you there. I think Checo did make the race. Absolutely. Right, shall we do our usual kind of run through? Lando did make the race. I said Checo. I meant Lando, but I read Checo, and so therefore Checo made the race. Well, I guess he kind of did in some sort of way. Added to the excitement as he was involved in all 3 of the penalised incidents. And Yuki say that. Hi from the Anto Lando Norris Club. Hello, Harry.
Do we do the rundown, or do you want to do penalties before the rundown?
Let's do the rundown, because I would assume people would be hanging around for that, and we can wrap up, because I don't think there's much to talk about really about most teams.
No, because let's start off with Haas.
They were there.
Gary was great. Mick beat Mazepin. Same old.
That pretty much rounds up Haas for the weekend.
They both unfortunately did finish behind the DNF car because they were so far behind. But moving on to the next team. Let's go with Alfa Romeo and Antonio Giovinazzi in P14 and Kimi Raikkonen with what a great takedown it was on the final lap from him in P15, stopping Sebastian Vettel from overtaking him. And
helping me out with Gio in fantasy. Gio had let me down in fantasy, but Kimi Raikkonen said, "Hang on, Mike, don't you worry about that. Giovinazzi is going to get those teammate points. He is going to gain 1 position in this race because I'm going to crash with Vettel, my good buddy, and we're going to crash out." There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is. I see Chris with a pretty decent week on fantasy, but his best bet was putting $1 on knock-on to retire first. We'll come to that.
Kimmy was classified though. He did DNF, so he made it back. So it was a great takedown. Take the other car out and still survive.
Yep.
Fantastic 10 out of 10 performance from Kimi Raikkonen.
Infinite jumping in there. Not surprised he let you down. Poor Italian Jesus.
Kimi Raikkonen, greatest driver on the grid?
Look, I guess it's an awareness thing. It's nothing really, is it? I mean, they were fighting for no points. I don't get it. I don't get why.
It was stupid.
I don't get why Vettel went for a really bold move on the inside.
Yeah.
Because Kimi was fighting, wasn't he? So he was concentrating ahead.
Yeah.
So Vettel lunged. And
Yeah.
so he wouldn't have been looking in his mirrors on that one. I don't get why. And Kimi, I don't.
Come on now.
Know why he didn't.
You can't blame Sebastian for this.
No. But I just don't get why both of them were fighting so hard.
If the FIA are going to let racers race, then one of those racers can't be taking out the other racer.
Yeah, that's true. Look, it's a really bad mistake from Kimi. I get it.
It's shocking.
But I just don't get why they were fighting for the position. You know what I mean?
Final lap, yeah, for nothing. Yeah, but if you're in a quicker car, you want to get past the car in front.
Are you doing it just for some highlight clips?
What do you think?
I just don't get
to the end of the race.
Yeah, I get that, right? But I just don't get it.
The move was easy. He did the move, and Kimi just went no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't like Kimi couldn't not avoid it.
But that's what I mean. Like. But when it was obvious that Sebastian had made the move, I don't get why Kimi defended
it. Yeah.
I don't get it. It was like
a very weird
Infinite
incident.
Said, it was a very weird incident. Diego, welcome, Diego. Good to see you. Kimi should retire. A lot of people are saying Kimi should retire on the back of it. I don't know. I think he had a fantastic race the week before. He was driving pretty well in this race. To be fair, it was just a weird incident. I don't think there should be rash decisions of retiring either way. Is Kimi Raikkonen? I saw a lot of people going Callum Isler, maybe. Like I said, I'm still up in the air about Callum Isler. I don't think the technical knowledge that Kimi brings greatly outweighs a marginal improvement in performance that Callum Isler might have at Kimi at this stage.
Yeah. Let's move on to Aston Martin with Sebastian Vettel P17 DNF, as we've spoken about, and Lance Stroll P13.
Now, Aston Martin are the great big sufferers of the stupid, you have to start on the tyre that you qualified in Q2.
Yeah.
It works for the top teams, but luckily, it hasn't affected too many races and it hasn't been too much. It used to be a lot worse, I feel, but they were ones that massively got hindered about this. It was a medium hard race, but because they started on the softs, because they had to go softs to get into Q3, they lost out to McLaren and Ferrari.
Yeah. You want to see teams fighting for Q3, but like we saw with Ferrari, they were like, we don't care about Q3. Yeah, if we get in there with the mediums, we get in there. But we'd rather start P11 with the optimum tyre. And they ended up doing very well from that. And Aston Martin did not very well. So we may start to see more teams go slower in Q2 just so they didn't have to go on the worst tyre in the top 10. Because it completely screwed them up. Let's go on to Alpha, especially as Aston Martin looked like they had some more pace, but yeah.
I'll keep in note, David, Xavier, that Zhou on medium was 4/10 of Ocon on soft in FP1. I'll keep in note for that when we talk about Alpine.
Which we should probably talk about Williams before Alpine, because Nicholas Latifi P16, a race of nothingness. I'm sure someone may tell us if there was any problems. but he did nothing. Meanwhile, George Russell, was it 2, 3, 4 laps from his first Williams points? Gutted. So close. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. George has driven brilliantly the past 2 weekends and desperately unlucky again not to score a point in a Williams. And, it will probably move on nicely. Just a quick note on Aston Martin before we properly go Williams. Do you think so far in 2021, Seb Vettel is a better result? Has had the better results, but Stroll is the consistent one? Probably. Sebastian's had the highest ceiling.
Stroll is necessarily consistent. I think they're as consistent as each other,
Yeah.
Stroll's had his off races, and so is Sebastian.
Thank you, Edwin, for shouting out with the likes.
Maybe Stroll's like the video. There's 20 of you out there. There's only 5 likes. Do the maths.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of forcing people into it.
So yeah, Aston Martin. Yeah, maybe you could say Stroll's a bit more consistent.
Yeah, I think we all want points for Williams rather than Russell. The interesting question for you, as we're on Williams though, right? I don't see them as Williams anymore. I used to have a soft spot for them, but as soon as Claire and Frank went, they're just a new team for me. I have probably about as much affiliation with them as Haas. Like something died with my support of Williams when Claire and Frank left, because it's not the same team, is it?
Yeah.
I know a lot of the people work there. They work out the same operations, but it's not that family-run team. They're now taken over by, a corporation. I can see the name changing in a couple of years' time or whatever. It just isn't the Williams team. So when people are getting excited, Williams are coming back. I don't know. Is it Williams?
Rather see Haas come back?
Yeah, it's not like everyone's going, oh, I'm so excited Braun GP have done so well for the last 9 years, is it? Someone else has taken over. Like a lot of the people and the things stayed the same for the Braun GP team, but you wouldn't be calling Mercedes Braun GP, or you wouldn't go, oh wow, Tyrrell won that, one world championship with Jenson Button, didn't they? Yeah. That's what they want. But you know what I mean?
You've lost your love for Williams.
Yeah, I don't get an affiliation. If you supported them, then I guess you have there, but it's much of a muchness. Like Peter said, George is going to be all right career-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minardi is doing well. Who was Minardi? Is Minardi Toro Rosso? Did they take over? I can't remember.
They've got a race win now.
Sorry.
They've got a race win and a couple of podiums then.
I actually look like a BTEC version of George Russell. Or was that to Stephen? I was presuming that was me because he's ginger.
I don't think either of us are.
No, I don't know. Well, I guess that's what you get for a BTEC version.
Yeah.
Vaguely looks close. Mercedes territory have got. See where you're coming from. That's where I go. So when they're doing all right, I'm just going, well, they should be. They've got more investment. But the heart of the team's been sold. They're a soulless team now. It's a bit harsh. If anyone from Williams is watching, sorry. Minardi was the AlphaTauri. Right, okay, yeah, okay. Let's move on from Williams to Alpine. So going from George Russell.
He's gone.
The end of the race.
Don't call an ambulance.
The exciting part at the end of the race was Alonso and George Russell, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry. I know, I'm good. Alonso and George Russell. What a battle that was at the end of the race.
Yes. Neither of them pushed either of them wide. Words. Sorry. I was going to go into something and I lost my words.
Right, okay. It was it was the race, the kind of thing we needed in the race that we didn't know we needed, and great respect between Alonso and Russell at the end. Alonso going, I'm really sorry it had to be, but, it's doing his job. He's got to score points in it. But Fernando, another fantastic drive. for Alpine. Did a great job to get into Q3. That car clearly doesn't have pace, but Ocon's form has dropped off a cliff. You know, it's crazy. Like, Ocon is doing the. Do we compare him to Adi Bayor last time out?
Yeah, I think so. With the new contract, but of
the
course,
dinosaur hunting his prey. Love it.
Esteban Ocon was obviously who took him out at the start. I can't even remember who had contact with him.
We'll go for the. Sorry, before we go on to Ocon, we'll finish off Alonso Russell.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, that was probably the highlight of the race.
I guess yes.
Excitement at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the race. Sorry, yeah, at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Because I thought Lando and Lewis was a pretty good fight.
Yeah, it was. But, you know, but there was really... It was good on-track battling between Russell. The fight went on a lot longer.
Yeah.
Norris was literally defend a couple of corners. He kept the gap, but as soon as Lewis was right on him, he could only really survive a couple of corners, pushing him wide before the overtake got
it was a couple of laps.
Might have been. I don't know. I can't remember from there. But Norris still did fantastic. That isn't taking anything away from Norris.
We're skipping ahead right now. Finish Alonso. Come on.
Alonso did great.
There we go.
Great job. Ocon, carry on with whatever you wanted to say about Ocon. Can't remember
of course, yes. We don't know how good his race would have been, but it was another disappointing qualifying session for Ocon. Getting knocked down Q1 again. There are things that his top speed isn't as high as Fernando Alonso's. And this is either an engine problem or he wants more rear wing, which means he has more downforce, but then he has a lower top speed. Because the less rear wing you have, the quicker you go. But the more rear wing you have, the more stable, I guess.
Yeah. The more downforce is meant to obviously like stabilize where you are in a car. So if you slap
makes
more,
it a bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're having more downforce on your kind of rear wing, it's making sure the rear end of the car is more planted, and maybe that's how you feel. What you need to get better traction out of the corners.
And if it's a rear wing thing, and then you go, well, Ocon just needs to learn how to drive with a bit less downforce. Because it's been really shocking, his turn of form since the new contract. But if it's an engine thing, you're like, apparently the top speed thing's been with him since Baku. So you go, well, if it's an engine thing, surely Alpine would have changed the engine. Yeah. It's not like they're a company short of cash. I know they haven't got the budgets of the Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, but they still got a massive budget, relatively. So you'd think they could just change the engine if it was an engine problem. So I think it's more down to Ocon's setup and Ocon's performance. So
hasn't suited these characteristics of track, and it suited Alonso's more.
I just remember we were bigging him up. Big time.
Absolutely. And then he's let us down. See, this is what happens if you back Esteban Ocon. Unbelievable. Honda should get Engine of the Year. It will be. It's easily the best engine out there at the moment.
There's not actually an award.
No, I don't think so, but they'll win the constructor.
I can just imagine an engine on a pedestal and someone putting like a medal over it. Congratulations.
Well done.
Yes, it revs up.
Oh, jeez. Right, okay, so we've done Alpine. Who are we on? AlphaTauri?
Yes. Yuki Tsunoda, P12. 0 points. Okay performance from him.
Again, it's another team that was stuffed absolutely by getting to Q3.
Yes.
Both did well to qualify in Q3, but both suffered having to be on a 2-stop rather than a 1-stop race.
There we go. That's what happened to them.
There's not really much more
similar
to
say on P. On P9. Yeah. He just is a better driver, so he got better results.
Yeah.
Well, qualified slightly better.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah, I forgot Zhao.
Yes, Zhao.
Okay,
of course.
Yeah. Alpine. Well, that was good. We wrapped up AlphaTauri thing. Alpine, Ocon, Zhao. Don't know. It's really difficult to compare practice times as a direct comparison to drivers because they will be running different programs, because obviously practice is all about data collection. And obviously, look, Ocon may have been doing race pace on the softs, which naturally would be going at a slower pace than if he was going for absolute optimal pace, and maybe Zhao was doing qualifying pace on the mediums. I don't know. I don't know what programs they were going. I don't know what they work on, because obviously they keep all that stuff there. Zhao's done all right in F2. Should he be ahead of that C? I think the other two guys, Lundgaard and Piastri, are both better than him.
Lundgaard, he's dropped off way off the cliff.
I still think Lundgaard's a better driver than him.
Surprising thought. I'd put Piastri ahead of Zhao, but I'd put Zhao ahead of Lundgaard.
No.
No? Okay.
No.
What happens if Zhao wins the FT title?
Congratulations. He's improved. No, in fairness, I have to be fair to Zhao. He is improving and he is getting better. He won his first major championship over the winter season, winning the F3 Asia Series. And he's come back in F2. This is last shot saloon. He really has to win the title, and he's doing a great job. And he's putting pressure on Alpine to say, give me a seat if needs be. And obviously, I can't be critical of Zhao, because my big problem with F1 is the drivers have to be perfect at a young age, and they don't allow drivers to develop at a different rate. Zhao is developing at a different rate. He looks like he's older, but now he's starting to come into play. Yeah, I think he certainly is a competitive and decent driver, but I don't think he would be replacing Esteban.
What a turn of offence that would be, though.
Especially after signing that big contract.
Signs bump contract and then gets sacked at the end of the year. Oh, but if he keeps doing this, if he can't sort it out, and if it's not a car problem, you can't see Alpine sticking with him.
Yeah, one note on AlphaTauri, though, before we round off them. The Tsunoda double penalty. God, how did he do that twice?
Of course. Okay, yeah, it's not an okay race for Yuki. It's a pretty poor race for Yuki.
Hello, Fergus.
So, hey, Fergus. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse to do it the first time. Because you go, well, first time, yeah, it's just a mistake. No, you don't see 4 or 5 drivers getting a penalty for going over the white line on the pit entry. You never see them. And Yuki got 2 of them in one race. The second one's just even more shocking, but the first one in itself is pretty shocking.
Yeah, Yuki's got the raw pace, but he is looking like he's probably been promoted into F1 a year too soon, I would say.
Tara's banging on the door. You probably can't hear that.
But we can hear that. It's
pretty
all right.
distracting.
We'll go for it. But I think...
yeah, because he's shown a bit of immaturity, I would say. He gets a bit hot-headed and almost chasing a result sometimes. And if things aren't going perfectly in his mind, then they start to unravel on track.
Yeah, I think he could be in danger of being replaced, to be fair. The Red Bull program is ruthless, and Lawson has been very good in F2 this year.
Especially if Honda going.
Yeah. Edwin, off topic, but how do you guys know each other? We are brothers. So we've known each other since living together.
Yeah.
Go from there. Do you believe Tsunoda is overrated? Because many people say he's overrated.
I wouldn't say... Yeah.
Obviously, we all got on the Yuki hype train, I think, at the start. Yes. But that's because he seemed a really lovely kind of young guy from the Chasing the Dream series. And all the interviews you saw of Yuki, you were like, oh, wow, you want this guy to do well. But then, and he had a really good Bahrain to start off the season. But yeah, I just think he's the youngest driver on the grid. And he's acting like it.
Yeah.
And that's no criticism into him.
Yeah,
he's younger than Lando.
How old is he? What, 20?
I think he's 19. Or he might be 20. He might be 20, actually, because Lando's 21 now, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah. Could Yuki be replaced by Albon? Absolutely, definitely. But I think Lawson's a more likelihood.
Albon coming back.
Yeah, I think Albon could, but unfortunately, the guys.
Do you think Albon should?
Well, the Red Bull Juniors in the other Safida series are doing well.
Albon should be pushing for a Formula E seat or an IndyCar seat. If I was Albon, I wouldn't want to go near that AlphaTauri seat.
No.
Because you're never going up to Red Bull. Just look at Pierre Gasly.
You don't want to be Daniel Kvyat.
Yeah. Go to another series, find success. Unfortunately, your time in F1 is done unless Red Bull offer you the actual Red Bull seat again.
Yeah, don't be a Hulkenberg. I know, although Hulkenberg had 10 years in F1, but don't kind of sit around like Kvyat's doing, hanging around for that opportunity to come back into the series just to drive in the midfield for a couple of seasons or whatever, especially part of the Red Bull program before you're replaced by the next up-and-coming junior.
Exactly, yeah.
And is that really how you want to look back on it? Go and enjoy, son. I think someone said, did Haas make a mistake letting Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen? They probably did for Haas, made a mistake for them. But I think Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen definitely made the right moves for their careers. And both massively enjoying success outside the series. And it proves that you can be a good driver in Formula One, but unless you have the machinery underneath you, you don't necessarily get to show that talent.
Yeah.
And Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean had either limited time in good cars or very little time at all. But yeah, Haas is so bad it did not matter who drives them. Absolutely. Right. Is it Ferrari or McLaren?
Yeah, that was a
Ferrari.
long one. Let's blitz through Ferrari. P8 for Charles Leclerc, who got kept sending on the outside of Checo, kept getting sent into the gravel.
Now, yeah, look, Charles is hot-headed, right?
Yeah.
And look, so I never kind of take anything the drivers say on the radio too literally. They're in the heat at the moment. They're going 100 whatever mile an hour through these things. But you're going, this guy, what a twat, blah, 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 blah. You're like going, well, didn't last week you literally last week you stuff up other people's races?
He's one of the few people that can actually complain. It's karma for you, Charles.
Yeah.
I will say his second move on Checo, sending on the outside of turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe it is. I thought that was a pretty stupid move. I don't think there was. Checo should leave room there, but I don't think Checo really could leave.
I've only ever seen F2 or F3 cars overtake there because they're a lot more smaller, slower speeds, and more nimble.
Yeah,
I've never seen an F1 car take at that point. That doesn't necessarily mean it should, but also I definitely wouldn't be allowing room with how you naturally take that corner.
Well, Lando overtook there, but obviously he went for the inside route on Lewis, who had to kind of just move out the way.
Yeah.
But I think that was a pretty dumb move from Charles. But he got Checo a penalty, so clearly it's Checo's fault according to the FIA. But oh well.
We'll talk about penalties later on in this. Just a quick one for IndyCar was so great. Love seeing Newgarden finally win. With a brilliant race. Mid-Ohio again. Lots of strategy in plays from there, and it was brilliant to finally see after dominating all three of the last three races that Newgarden finally got that win under his belt. But yes, Sainz also I'm seeing smooth operator in there.
P5.
Leclerc is an entertaining driver, but a bit wild. Trying to think Ferrari, a lot of the other things are Lewis and stuff.
Sainz, P5, solid performance. Followed last week, having a great result there. Followed it with another P5. Great result for him.
High PPR 11.
Hello. Beats Charles Leclerc yet again. Made the strategy work.
He started on the hards, didn't he? He was the guy who started on the hards like Kimi Raikkonen, copied Kimi's strategy this one, which meant that he had the quicker car at the end, which, he was able to overtake Charles and Ricciardo.
The impressive one was getting the overtake on Ricciardo and then making sure he didn't slip 10 seconds behind Checo. He was really on a charge. A bit like Lando last year. He just fully sent it on the last 2 laps, got the move, and then made up 2 positions, basically in one overtake on Danny Rick. Which moves us on to McLaren. Let's start with Daniel Ricciardo. P7, having a good race. It was a good recovery drive from where he qualified, which was like P13. Solid race. Got beat by a Ferrari still, though. Still getting up to speed in that McLaren.
Was one of the guys who massively benefited from qualifying, getting knocked out in Q2.
Yep.
Big time. But yeah, did very well. Did very well on that aspect, and one of his best performances in McLaren this year.
I wouldn't say it was his best one.
What was his? I said one of his best.
I think the French Grand Prix still
one
was
of his best performances.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Especially after last week was horrific round.
Yeah.
The Styria Grand Prix. Moving on to Lando Norris, P3. 4th time.
Easily the driver of the day.
There's no question this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Easily the driver of the day. Brilliant. How he kept that McLaren up with the Mercedes all race, and in our opinion should have at least been in a fight for P2 a little bit closer ahead of Bottas, because I don't think it's a penalty on Lando.
No.
But like we said, we'll come on and talk about that. The racing itself, just even with that 5-second penalty, taking advantage. Lewis Hamilton even saying that, Lando Norris on radio, that Lando's just such a great driver. And difficult because he's had some really top ones up there, but probably his best ever drive for McLaren. I think it's one of his favourite circuits. Yeah. We know that Lando's strong at Austria, but I think it is probably his strongest.
Because he was only 3 seconds off Valtteri Bottas at the end of the race. 3 seconds. Which is nuts. A McLaren 3 seconds behind a Mercedes. And Bottas, as far as we know, didn't actually have any damage there.
Mm.
So incredible, probably one of his best drives in that McLaren. It was on pure pace. I think all his other podiums have had a bit of carnage and a bit of luck that have gone with them. But this one is just pure Lando Norris. I guess, no, you go Lewis had damage. But Norris's pace was there all the way. That's about Lando Norris. Driver of the day, easy.
We'll jump in quickly on Dane's question. Do you think Marcus Ericsson being good in IndyCar was a waste of potential in F1, having bad cars beside 2015 and 18? I'm not sure. Like we said, drivers develop at different rates, and I would love to see older drivers work their way into F1 rather than new drivers just having to be young drivers coming in, because drivers do develop at different rates. But I don't think Ericsson ever would have been put within one of the top teams and excelled. So I think, F1's loss is definitely IndyCar's game in a much more driver-focused series that has a much more level playing field. I think it's a series that Marcus Ericsson naturally would have benefited from anyway, because I think it suits his skills. Because I don't think he's massively budget-backed, and I don't think he's, you don't know the driver they develop into, but he's not the driver of the Verstappens, Leclercs, Hamiltons of the world.
Yeah.
So go from there. The driver of the day is Max Verstappen. Lando probably should not have got the penalty, but he still got it, and it cost him second. Harsh, but you could argue go from there. But I sometimes feel Hamilton constantly undermines Bottas. Yesterday, he said he would easily got second place. Yeah, but that's what drivers do. That's what drivers do. That's what Mercedes do, and I think that's what Bottas is sick of.
What was the comment?
Fergus, I sometimes feel Hamilton constantly undermines Bottas. Yesterday, he said he would have easily got second place without damage.
He would have. He was well in control before the damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Mercedes.
We'll do like we did last time and have the 4 and just go through.
Okay.
The 4. So we'll start with Checo Perez. 2-time penalties.
Now, I may not agree with the penalties, but I would say he stuffed his own race because his car easily would have been able to pass Lando Norris. And I'll talk about this more when we talk about the penalties. but he didn't have to go for Lando so early.
We ripped into Albon doing the exact same thing last year on Lewis Hamilton. And you go with Albon, maybe there was an argument he had to make the move then because the Merc is so quick. But when there's such pace advantage between the Red Bull and McLaren, you get 100% weight, especially at the start of the race.
Like, it's always a tight one there.
Yeah.
And with everything that's happened and, you know, seeing the guy you replaced in the team, what happened to him there just last year, you know.
Shocking.
Overtaking never seems to go well there.
No.
In that corner.
Every time someone makes a move on the outside, I'm like, oh, here we go. We're in the gravel. Let's go.
Yeah, Checo was clearly frustrated by not getting on the front row, wanted to kind of challenge with Max straight away, thinking about doing his job. But realistically, all he had to think was, yes, I'm going for the constructors, but also I do not need to risk this move because both Mercedes are behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they can't get past me, then they're not challenging Max either, you know, which is my position in number 2. But he obviously wants to be in that position as quickly as possible to be in P2 and secure his podium. But he fluffed it.
They got stuck in a DRS train. Got, I'd say, pretty... Okay, the first Leclerc penalty from... His race was done.
Infinite. Perez exposed again. People clearly forgot what this guy did on Ocon in 2017. Infinite, we're going to talk about this in more detail, but I disagree with that point. You can argue with the Ocon points, right? But this race, completely disagree. I get your point on Ocon, but not relevant here. Not relevant here. Right, Bottas.
No, Lewis Hamilton. He came P4. Infinite.
Unlucky.
Yeah, floor damage. Like he said, I think he would have easily got P2. He was looking, as soon as he got past Lando, he looked in cruise control, picked up damage going over the curbs. Wasn't really drive error that got damage. I think could really happen to anyone from hearing the post-race interviews and whatnot. So, yeah, unlucky. Got P4. He seemed very dejected, losing so many points. I think now, what's the points gap? It's like 36? 31, maybe?
Yeah, it's more than a race win, which always starts making it a little bit more difficult for you.
It is 32 points. 32 points difference. So he was pretty bummed out.
There you go. Infinite's got it there as well for you go.
So on to Valtteri Bottas, P2.
I thought Valtteri, look, it's one of his strongest tracks, isn't it? And we have to give credit where credit's due. It was a really good race from Bottas. He did what he needed to do. It was the best result that Mercedes could have achieved because there was a clear pace difference. They weren't on Red Bull's level. They haven't been for the past, for these Austria weekends, and well, for the past few weekends. But yeah, they weren't there. Maximize the best result, which is your job as a driver.
Yep,
within the team.
Could say Lando was a bit too close to him at the end there, but
doesn't matter. Got P2.
Doesn't matter. Got P2.
He, you know, he didn't have to push it. Yeah.
Well, I guess with one car damaged, he's probably told massively to stay off the curbs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he's in cruise control, got P2.
Yeah, but Norris had that 5-second penalty, and Norris had all the work to get past him. He didn't have to push it. It was different. If he finished third and didn't find a way to get past Lando Norris, as much as it would have been great for Norris, that's where you could have criticised Bottas. But he didn't need to. Made sure he got his laps in, got ahead, took advantage of that 5-second penalty that Lando had, and got the job done for the team. So you have to praise Bottas for this weekend.
Easy peasy. Bam. And on to, finally, the race winner, Max Verstappen.
Flawless race.
I guess you could call him driver of the day because he didn't do a thing wrong. It's weird being a Max fan. I was thinking about this because I've been a Max fan and a Red Bull fan for 4 or 5 years. When did we go to Silverstone? So
2018.
2018. So 4 years. And before this year, I've been just happy to see Max fight for the podium and maybe the odd win. And now I'm at the point that I don't see Max at all during the race. The last 2 races, we've barely seen Max because he's just been so dominant in a dominant car. It's a weird feeling.
3 years.
3 years. I know since 2018, but
No, it's technically
2018 was on the first year.
Yeah.
It was the first year I saw him live. But yeah.
It's pretty much ever since he went to Red Bull, to be fair.
Flawless performance. Yeah, probably. There or thereabouts. But properly, last 4 years.
Lando MX, who is the driver of the season in 2021 so far? I'm going to go with Lando. I think Max has been superb. And he's been brilliant. But early advantage with the car had a few mistakes there. I think Lando, what he's doing in that McLaren, especially how he's kind of not made Ricciardo's life easy in his tradition to the McLaren. I think Lando Norris has been absolutely superb this year.
Driver of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a tough one because Max hasn't been challenged all that much.
Yeah.
Whereas Lando's always in a fight.
Does Lando this year feel like Max last year, sort of stuck in no man's land, not as fast as the top guys, but has the occasional moments? But I think that's a pretty good comparison, Rox. I'd agree with that. Yeah, obviously it's a position down, but yeah, absolutely.
It's the same scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been in and around where McLaren have been the last 3 seasons, hasn't it? Because 2019, that's pretty much where Carlos Sainz was. Well, no, not quite. Lando's kind of elevated it to a new level, but McLaren have been building up to this position, and Lando has well and truly asserted themselves in this position.
Yeah. And he's the main guy holding off the Ferrari to keep a McLaren third in the standings. They are still third, right?
I think they are.
Ferrari have been closing in, though. Let me do a quick standings check. They are 9 points to that, 19 points ahead of Ferrari.
Close.
So he's
doing
an absolute fantastic job to keep McLaren third in the constructors. Yeah, probably. I'd say it's pretty close between him and Max. It's difficult for Max because, they're in. If you'd like to see a driver absolutely battle for every single result, then obviously you're always going to lean towards Norris as driver of the season. But then Max is completely flawless in the best car. So his first places or good race results kind of get diminished if you look more at it. It's the best car on the grid. It takes away a bit from his driver performance. But yeah. But I think we've done our rundown.
Right, so we're to the penalty. Everyone's kind of waiting to talk about because it was the most controversial part of the Grand Prix. I'll start on the positives of it. If you are going to award the penalties, what you have to praise the stewards was at least they were consistent in their decision making. Yeah.
I think because we say penalties, there were a lot of penalties. Obviously, we're not talking about the Yuki ones. Those are slam dunks. We're not talking about the Nicholas Latifi one or did Giovinazzi end up getting a penalty? Mazepin got a penalty. Those are all slam dunks. The ones we're focusing on is the Lando and the 2 Checo ones. And I think it all stems back to last year with Alex Albon on Lewis Hamilton.
Yep. And I'm really confused why they didn't reference that in the commentary.
Yeah.
Because that kind of feels like the precedent that set this thing. They gave Lewis Hamilton the 5-second penalty, which I can't remember at the time, but I'm pretty sure at the time we weren't in favour of a penalty. We could see it go either way, but we were veering on the racing incident side of things. And I think since then, what grounds us is we've watched a hell of a lot of IndyCar since then. And this is where I go for. So in IndyCar, I would say the stewards are a lot more laissez-faire. They kind of just let the drivers get on with it. Very rarely do I see penalties. There was actually a penalty in the Mid-Ohio for blocking, where it was a blocking under defensive move, which obviously F1 are very strict on too, which is fair enough because, you know, when you're moving in braking zones, that's when things become difficult. But for this situation, you just got to let racers race, right? And it sounds like it's a mantra for like a campaign. Let racers race. If you vote for Mike, you're going to let racers race. But, you know, it's just racing. Like Checo and Leclerc, they take the gamble. They take the risk of going around the outside. That is an overtake. Every time you take an overtake, you go risk. The guy defending shouldn't be punished for just going, go on then, I'm going to force you to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
And go onto the gravel. And a lot of people going, well, look at Alonso and Russell and Lando and Lewis, you know, in the battles. Well, they went for the move, saw it wasn't there, and then backed out of the move.
Yeah.
Checo and Charles both could have backed out of the moves easily could have backed out, but they chose to stay in it. And suddenly they go, they've stuffed their own race. And now the other guy is getting punished for it.
Both of them were the instigators.
Absolutely. It's an absolute. It's a bit like when referees in football try to get overly involved in decision making, you know, and they try and be the star. It's almost like the stewards trying to go, oh, we've done something today. We've had an impact on the race. Like, honestly, I think at Road America, and now because there wasn't a gravel trap, and that's what puts it in, because there's the gravel traps at Austria, when you get pushed wide, the danger's there. But it's the same for every driver. You know, the gravel traps there, you're going, oh, I'm here, you shouldn't push me there, I should run out of room. No, you know it's there, and you still choose to make that move, and you're going, oh, please don't push me out. But they're not going to let you just pass them, are they?
Exactly. Yeah.
And Lando said Checo didn't go for the commitment of the move that he needed. And, you know, so I think that's fair. You got to really go hell for it. He was holding on to it. It's tight. It's difficult. But, you know, it's, looking at Road America, they were getting pushed wide out on, what was it, turn 5, I think it was. How many times was Ryan Hunter-Reay pushing the guys onto the curb, which they then had to back off because they didn't have as much grip on the curb.
Yeah.
In terms of situation. I know technically these ones, they got pushed beyond the curb, but you don't have a right.
But that was the room they were diving in on. They knew they had to go on the outside of the curb.
Absolutely.
To go on the outside, you can't expect for the road just to open up to you to come back onto. You know you're going to have to go onto the curb, and there's nothing out there.
Absolutely.
So,
but yeah, turn 4. If turn 4 had a runoff, this wouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah.
So it's just because it's the gravel there
that
they've decided to do that. Because on turn 3, isn't it, where Max and Leclerc did it in 2019, because that was a runoff, Max didn't get a penalty.
Well, yeah,
but that's exactly the same.
Yeah, and turn 1, we see a lot at the start of the race, especially people going wide, people being pushed wide.
Max Verstappen did it at Imola this year, pushing in the first chicane, Lewis Hamilton off the track there.
Yeah,
you know, and in Spain.
Yeah.
Pushing them across, and no penalty was in that situation. I know they'll go, oh, it's turn 1, so it's okay. You shouldn't have a rule that apply. I know there's a lot of cars going into it, so they'll go, well, you have to kind of treat it a little bit differently. But still, when they're going wheel to wheel, it's just stupid from there. Let's see some comments on this. I saw the Moaning Yorkshireman joining chat. Welcome back. Lando penalty was bull. Sergio Leclerc first time was deserved. Sergio Leclerc second time was bull. Yeah, I can see because they will touch, but I'm still just absolutely right. Trying to make racing great again.
As soon as so Lewis and Albon last year set the precedent, and clearly they decided that's the precedent.
I've seen Infinite's comment. For me, deserve for Perez. I have an agenda to uphold.
So yeah, the first Perez and Lando one, they've clearly gone, last year was the precedent, this is a penalty. Soon they've done that, then you have to say the other 2 instances they have to penalise. because that's what they're doing. Because they can't change their plans mid-race. So all 3 penalties have to be given as soon as the first one's given.
Absolutely. So that's what we praise for the consistency, at least. But
they're all wrong.
Yeah, they should have said Lando no, and then that would have meant all the others had to be no. But yeah, moaning Yorkshireman, going back to that point we had, Leclerc had the pace at the time, but instead of waiting for a perfect opportunity on both overtaking opportunities, he put himself in a dangerous position. He should have set the moves up better. Absolutely, and that's what we said with Checo. He had the clear pace advantage over Norris. He should have overtaken at a more opportune moment. So I would say where the criticism comes not on the guys defending, but on the guys attacking, because they clearly had the pace advantage over the guys that they were racing, but chose to take the really high-risk move and then go, oh, what are you doing?
The final Leclerc one. Oh,
that was it. That was a joke.
I think that was the worst one of the day.
That was the worst one of the day. And yeah, and Roxanne bringing up, like said with Leclerc earlier, I mean, it is rich. I love Leclerc. Super quick, super talented driver. And like we said last week, he's in that kind of Max Verstappen phase of his career where Max was about 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember, where he was just being too bold on overtakes and getting involved in a lot of collisions. But last week, you know, how many races he probably ruined Raikkonen getting points last week.
Yep.
From that situation. Who was the other guy?
Took Gasly out at the start.
He took Gasly out at the start, absolutely. And from there, and it's true. I think it's difficult to say we need less penalties because that would make racing drivers just drive each other road all the time because they can. The problem is inconsistent for the FI. Now, Chris, do you see, I look at it and like I say, from F1 blinkers, I think before you'd go, yeah, absolutely. And F1 cars are a lot more fragile. And, you know, those can damage and really ruin races because of the contact from there.
Yeah.
But Indy cars are a bit more robust. They can bounce off each other. And just in the last 12 months, I've seen so many similar incidents with guys defending hard like that. Colton Herter, I can think, he's a really hard defender. Like I was saying, I think Ryan Hunter-Ray at Road America was pushing there. I'm pretty sure at the Indy GP, there was a collision between Ferrucci and Ryan Hunter-Ray where they were fighting hard, wheel to wheel.
Well, I remember the Detroit GP for Pato overtaking Nygaard, and there was contact between the two there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's no such... I think if you let the racers race, I think the key thing for me here, if someone can find something from a racing driver that says differently, but all the things I've seen from people going, the guys who have said it was a penalty are guys who are fans and not racing drivers and not involved in racing. And that doesn't devalue their opinion. Everyone's entitled to opinion. Like we say, this is just how you view it and how you want it. If you want the penalties, then that's fine. If you don't want the penalties like us, I just prefer racing drivers to get on with it and deal with the consequences of their, you know, mistakes.
Yeah.
Then, you know, or the risks that they take, you know, they get adversely punished for doing that. That's fine. But the team principles, the guys involved in racing, like everyone's saying that it shouldn't be a penalty. The guys don't want to be penalized like this, you know, and it isn't just the team principles of the guys involved. You know, I think Toto, well, two of them were, but Toto was involved, but then Toto has a view on everything. You know, but the guys, I guess you can say Christian Horner's one was twisted because he could say if it isn't a penalty for Lando, then it wouldn't be a penalty for Checo as well. So you'd say there's biasry to the opinions, but the racing drivers I've seen, they don't think it should be penalties. And I agree with that. Yeah, where Raikkonen, you know, probably should be penalised for what he did. Well,
Kimi was penalised.
He was penalised, and that's fair. That's fair for what he did because, you know, that was a mistake from here. Checo said Lando should have had a penalty. Should he? Oh, well, Checo's an idiot. Well, Checo actually went very apologetic afterwards. He was like, I'm so sorry. This isn't the driver that I am. I was like, own it, mate. Don't be apologetic afterwards. Imagine if we were in the old days, how many people would have had to have drive-through and stop-and-go penalties?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's crazy.
Wasn't it a great battle between Gilles Villeneuve and
René Arnoux? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, 1979 French Grand Prix. I think Matt Bishop shared that recently. That was very good. Yes and no to its game, because society has the law and we have the FIA. So similarly with poor consistency, but without punishment, no rewards, there needs to be a balanced title hold. No, look, I get it, but in these incidents, I don't think they're clear cut. I think these incidents, you can go, they're just racing incidents. Drivers going wheel to wheel. When you go wheel to wheel at the speeds they are, you can't be overly harsh on mistakes and penalties either way. When it's a clear thing like Kimi Raikkonen, you know, blocking Seb and taking them both out, that's a fair penalty. If there's some guy like, I mean, Charles Leclerc almost did a replica on Sebastian Vettel, I saw, into turn 3 at the start of the race, where he missed the braking point, and Seb was aware to this time and went wider. To avoid it. But, you know, obviously the 2020 incident where Leclerc went over the top, you know, those are the times where penalties are warranted, because, you know, the guy has clearly missed a braking zone. It was his clear mistake that then resulted in an accident that although Leclerc seems to avoid punishment probably far too often for this. But when you're fighting wheel to wheel and the element of risk, it's not clear. Everyone's saying it was Lando's corner or Checo had the right to be given room of thing. It's not clear cut. They're just fighting on track. When it's 50-50 like that, you can't punish one of the drivers severely with a 5-second penalty, which is severe because it, you know, probably cost Lando P2 and it cost Lando and it cost Perez P5 in the race. You know, although you could say, you know, karma for the first incidents with stuffing his own race with Lando. But yeah, hey, that's what it is. I think that probably sums it up quite well.
Kimi got 20 seconds as his penalty, added on to his final race time, which I find a bit odd.
20 seconds?
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't carried over a penalty for next race.
Yeah.
When he was on the final lap, 20 seconds, he's already gone into the gravel. He's already lost those positions.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect it. What about the penalty points? Give Lando's on 10 points. I thought I saw Cranky Yankee say that he will be on 8 by the time of British Grand Prix. But I completely agree that you shouldn't have penalty points for these incidents. That, again, is over-policing of racing drivers. I know F1 is an engineering series, and so I feel like these penalties are much more geared towards protecting the cars, because Lando's move and Checo's move damaged the cars. They were penalised because the cars are so expensive. So that's probably where they're being strict on penalties, because they want the car drivers to be more careful in those situations with the cars, where a series like IndyCar, a series like Formula E is, you know, it's a lot cheaper to enter and maintain. So I guess they can let the drivers drive a little bit more.
Go on, get the mantra out. Get the mantra out.
Let racers race.
Vote for Mike 2021.
I don't like the penalties that the drivers get for mistakes from the team. Those don't make sense to me. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird.
Does that still happen? Because I thought they changed that already.
Does anyone know how Hamilton picked up his damage that hindered him? I believe it was turn 10 on lap 29. I think I saw Infinite share that one, and it had 29 points of down difference. And FP1, Will from FP1, good YouTuber, and has, well, obviously his aerodynamics is his degree and done stuff in F1. He's saying that 29 points is a huge loss in downforce. He was saying that during a season, teams would be happy just to gain 1 point. And during one of his things, he kind of found 3 points. So to lose 29 points of downforce is a massive, massive one from there.
Ouch.
But yeah, and that's why the 2022 regs making things more robust That was Ross Bourne's thing. He was saying these cars look brilliant, but they're so fragile. Like they take the smallest thing and have massive performance loss from the smallest contacts. That had to change, and that hopefully, we're going to be seeing that in 2022. Will Aston Martin get their poo-poo in one pile for 2022? Potentially, Tonka. But potentially they will get it going.
It's a possibility.
But it's a possibility for every team on the grid.
Everyone's going to have the best car in 2022. That's all I know. Everyone's going to win the World Drivers' Championship and everyone's going to win the World Constructors' Championship.
Hey, if it makes racing closer, I can't complain. Who is the worst driver in 2021 so far besides Mazepin? Worst driver's harsh. It's so hard.
It's difficult because every car is different, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't like making any sort of driver comparisons now in F1 because you can only really compare teammates.
Yep.
But even within teams, you don't know what sort of extra parts are going on cars that are benefiting within a certain driver to go from there. Yeah, probably Latifi. He hasn't been great at all. He hasn't kicked on at all in his second season in F1.
Yeah.
So I think Latifi would be an easy pick to kind of go from there.
I would also pick Yuki in there, 100%. I know he's picked up last couple of races, but I don't think his head's quite right yet.
Yeah.
And considering how strong that AlphaTauri is, it's not McLaren level strong, but it's still very strong.
Yeah, and like we said, maybe it is him showing that he got promoted from F2 a season too early. Maybe they should have stuck Albon back in that AlphaTauri and given Yuki, Lawson, Derugler.
But I guess it was Honda. Honda's last year, they wanted a Honda driver in there.
I guess.
And Yuki is a Honda back driver. So
absolutely. So don't know. Yeah, interesting one. But I think that probably rounds up thoughts.
Yes. Any final thoughts? We're kind of giving up. Overall arching thoughts. Dominance from Max Verstappen meant we didn't have another fight for the lead. Hopefully.
True. Kvyat would have been the best thing. But Kvyat seems desperately unlucky. I would love to see Kvyat in another racing series because I genuinely think that Daniel Kvyat is a very good driver. Carry on.
But hopefully, as the season goes on, Mercedes, they are bringing upgrades. Maybe they can get a bit close to Max. They're all being a bit downbeat for the British Grand Prix, but that's classic Mercedes. But maybe this year's the actual year that they're not bluffing anymore because they can't bluff with how much Red Bull's doing to actually try to nick one off the final season in the hybrid era before the new technical regulations. Bam!
Bam!
But Lando Norris continues to be absolutely incredible, making massive gains personally and on track.
Yeah. And Silverstone is the next race. We shall be at Silverstone for the 3 days. So if anyone's going to be there, just DM on Twitter or anything like that. Or, message us through Twitter is probably the best way to kind of get in contact with us.
Link down below.
Link in the Discord. We're obviously happy to meet up with you guys. We're not obviously two big stars that we're signing a few autographs.
Yeah, we'll have our own autograph booth because I'm sure there'll be millions of people. Absolutely
in
millions.
Fairness, even though only the capacity is 150,000, there will definitely be millions who come and see F1 fanatics from there. But no. Guys, if you do want to kind of have a chat and watch some racing with us, we've got general admission, so you can definitely come and join us for a few sessions from there. We're all 3 days of the weekend, so it'll be good. And we'll try and maybe do some live streaming there because we can do it on the old mobile phone.
The data's doing.
Well, I've got unlimited data, so it should be
easy.
Should be all right from there, but it's whether the quality's all right from there. We'll see if we can make a vlog. We'll probably won't make too much of a vlog front. But we'll probably try and get you guys live streaming along the way.
Yeah.
For now. Who are you picking? Turbo, Norris with streaks or Checo? Norris. 100% Norris. Go for now. When's Fantasy League review? That'll be out tomorrow at its usual time of 6 p.m. Hope Mercedes win at Silverstone, Dane. I think it would be good to see Lewis win at Silverstone, but Max will be, Max fan over here will be hoping for go from there. Thank you, Carola. We'll certainly enjoy Silverstone. Who will win the sprint qualifying? Not sure. Probably go from there. But yeah, anyway, guys, see you later. Thanks for that.
We won't be live on Wednesday with our usual Motorsport Manager, but if you are interested, we are doing a England watch along for the Euros.
Absolutely, we'll be watching the semi-final.
Is that a link down below?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Or just keep an eye on Twitter.
We're in Discord. Keep an eye on Twitter for now.
Or Discord, yeah.
Last question. Do you think Seb is overrated? No. I don't think he is. I think he's the 4-time champion. I think he's very good. Again, I think he's in that kind of Fernando Alonso bracket, and Fernando saw it, that once you come out of a great car, it's then very difficult to win championships. And I think Mercedes have had the best car all the way through the turbo hybrid era. Ferrari got close in 2017 and 2018, but Vettel had to drive that car right on the limit and then go from there. Will Kimi retire this year? Maybe. I don't know. It's getting to that stage where I'm not sure from there. See you guys. Have a good one at Silverstone. See you later, guys. And if you're new around here or haven't done so already, Stephen, what can they do?
They can like, subscribe, and ding that bell.
Ding it and like the stream. Thanks for all the likes on the stream, guys. It's been brilliant as always. Thanks for fantastic comments and great discussions in the comments there. We do enjoy it. It always makes these live streams a lot more fun. But for now, UF1 fans, keep racing.